What's up, Living Heads? Welcome to another episode of From the Yellow Chair. I am Crystal Williams, the co-founder and lead strategist at Lemon Seed Marketing. Y'all, we are right smack dab in the middle, coming towards the end of our Alphabet Soup series, where we are talking about all of the funky acronyms that live inside of the marketing world. Today's focus is going to be on PPC, pay-per-click, kind of a cuss word, but we are going to learn a lot about it. We have one of the best people in the industry that's talking about this on the show today to just shed some light, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, you know what? Let's get situated. Let's get going. Let's sip some lemonade. Perfect. Well, today we're talking about PPC for contractors, turning paid ads into booked jobs, which is better than just a flipping lead. We want some booked jobs. We want some revenue. So joining me is Brett Hansen from WebFX. We have gotten to really get to know each other pretty good over the last several months. And you just got married. So congratulations on that. So lots of good things
Thank you.
happening. So Brett, I
Yeah.
want you to tell everybody listening, why should anyone listen to what you have to say?
Oh man, I don't know if they should or not. Just joking. I would say, behind me is like a super knowledgeable team that's been in the industry for, longer than almost 3 decades. So, the founder of WebFX, I mean, before Google was even like working, he was doing websites and he was doing marketing and over the last 28 years, he's been able to build a brand that's done really well with our core capabilities, which would be like SEO, websites, those things. We actually own SEO.com as well, which is a really good website and tool that marketers from all over the world use. And along that, obviously we've had to learn how to do PPC and those types of ad campaigns as well, because they go like hand in hand, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you want one or the other to perform at like really good levels, especially your PPC, then there has to be some like really good SEO taking place in that one. So me specifically, why you should listen to me? Just I've learned so much from the team at WebFX, and they sit behind me and they have a greater knowledge than I do. But man, I've been able to really immerse with that team and learn some really great things over the last year or so that I've been here.
Yeah, and I will say this I think you guys are, like, nice and complex, yet simple enough for contractors to be able to interact. So, today we're gonna
100%.
jump deep into the PPC side of things. We're gonna try to focus on this contractor,
Yeah.
conversation here, right?
Right.
Because one thing that digital companies will do, we know we do it. I'm not a digital agency, but just a marketer in general. We
Mm.
will talk our marketing jargon, and contractors will look dead in my face and say, "What the heck are you even talking about?" But
Yeah.
PPC stands for pay per click. Y'all all hear about it. And I think there's several examples of pay per click. GLSA is an example of pay per click. Uh,
Yeah.
Different types of PPC ads, retargeting and things like that. So it's really a style of ad that you can run. But I also think it's a quick way to generate leads. But I'm not going to lie, don't kill me for this. I think it
Mhm.
is the most expensive way to build a business.
It's the most expensive way to build a business if it's done wrong, for sure. Especially when, like, the way that we look at PPC is it's essentially like an auction, right? So every time somebody searches like HVAC repair near me or emergency plumber, Google runs basically like a really fast auction on those to decide like whose ads are going to show up. And you really only pay, someone when they like click on the ad, just not for the showing up. But most common types of contractors will run like the GSLA ads that you're talking about, the PPC social ads, and like the retargeting ads. But PPC can be expensive if the campaign's not set up correctly and you have poor sales conversion rates, for sure.
So I love this. So and I'll give my take here for a second. My part is you should be working hard to brand yourself where people
Yeah.
are specifically typing in your name. But until then, until you have a lot of people, until you have a large top of mind recognition level, it's going to be hard to just live off brand alone. So it is
Yeah.
this nice, healthy mix. But the more you build in brand, the lower that cost per lead becomes because they go less and less to these paid channels. But people are like, I need leads right now. It is
Mm.
somewhere probably in this mix here of
Yep.
where you need to be when you need leads right now. But it's expensive to do it because it's honestly no meanness intended. It's the easiest thing to do as well. Is get with your company like WebFX and be like, okay, I got $5,000 a month. What can I do? They're going to tell you we need to run some PPC. We need to be doing some things. So where do you think most contractors go wrong when they try PPC?
Mm.
My guess is underfunding.
Yeah. So one would be, yeah, so underfunding the campaigns for sure, not making sure that you're, not doubling down or let me rephrase that, making sure that you're spending enough ads to see basically the quality of leads that you want to get. A lot of times contractors will come in and put in like a really basic ad account or a budget account. Sorry, let me
Yeah.
rephrase that. Contractors will come in and put like a bare minimum budget, and then
Yeah.
after a couple months they'll abandon it. The way we need to look at PPC is it's just like SEO in the way of that Google. I kind of put it into like three buckets, right? And I call it loss. So it takes about 3 to 4 months for Google to understand the algorithm and to learn. So the first phase is L for learning, right? First month, it's just learning about your business, what type of leads you're looking for. The second month is optimization. That's when your marketing company should come in and be like, hey, based on what we're seeing in the initial campaigns that we set up, we might need to make some changes here. We might need to put some more marketing budget in this campaign
Yep.
and take
Yep.
some away from this one. And then the third and the fourth month is really when it hits like that sweet spot. So the last part, S, right? S for the sweet spot. And that's really when you start really getting some good traction and ROI. The mistake that contractors make is one, they either put too much money up front and they lose a lot, or they don't put enough. And then the second piece is a lot of them dip out during that learning piece before they even get to see what their ROI might look like.
So we really need some commitment here. So it's underfunding and lack of commitment, and then
Mhm.
your acronym there. So I think contractors are so scared, and so they want this true immediate. Listen, if I had to say an immediate marketing tactic, to me, one
Mhm.
of the very few things that immediately flips a switch is outbound calling or texting.
Yeah. Yep.
Everything else needs time to marinate and learn and grow and continue to get better. And
Yep.
so underfunding, a big one there. So like go in at your best and then let it
Yeah.
sit and work. That is not easy to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
but
And and
it is.
commit to it. Yeah, you're right. It's not easy to do, and I didn't mean to cut you off there, but to
No, you're
definitely
good.
commit to it, at least for 4 or 5 months to see how it's performing and what your possibilities are.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that leads me to my next thing. Is like, what is success? So, like people will tell me, like, I just was not successful. So, let me get on my soapbox for a second here. A lot of times, what I see is not a lead generation problem, it's a booking problem. So, you've got the operational side of the company that can't book the lead. So, the
Right.
leads come in, and maybe they're not always perfect, wrapped in a bow, and there's a little hustle that you got to have to it. But if you only have a 20% booking rate on your PPC leads, the problem is not the PPC. The
Right.
problem is a CSR problem or whatever you've got going on in the background there. So
Yeah.
the call booking, the lead booking rate is important to look at. If you look at things holistically, which I preach this all the time, look at everything as a whole package here on, okay, I invested correctly with the right ad copy. Now I've got leads, and now I need to be able to handle it operationally on the backside of the phone to get this call booked. Because really, what we want to judge, I would judge PPC on, is booked jobs and revenue.
Yep.
Clicks and impressions do play a part of the puzzle. They're a part of the recipe that do have weight and value, but not as much as book jobs and revenue.
Yeah. So I'm gonna answer, or I'm gonna reply to that in a couple different ways. Is one, just from some experience that I've had over the last couple of audits that we've done talking about impressions, man, There's been a few campaigns that I've seen that are set up on impressions and clicks or views, and that's not what we're looking for when it comes to home services. We don't really care about impressions and views. We care about what you just said, right? Book jobs and then ROAS, the return on ad spend. So one thing I'd say is to always to go through and babysit, or to maybe not babysit's not the right word, but to always validate the campaigns and make sure that they're all set on search, right? So we don't want visibility. We want search campaigns to be set up on conversions, is what we're ultimately looking for in the home services. So you hit the nail on the head right there. Impressions, we don't care about that. We want book rate. Always make sure your campaigns are set up to tell Google that we want conversions, not impressions.
So I kind of look at this as like, this is going to be a terrible analogy, but so my kids play golf, right?
Yeah.
Really, golf is won at the green, like in the short game, right?
Yeah.
My kids win and lose tournaments on how well they're putting for the day. But what do they
Right.
love to practice? Driving. I can
Yeah.
drive at 280 yards, 360 yards, right? And they always want me to buy them new drivers. And so my husband said, we're not buying a new driver until you start putting better, right? Or
100%.
chipping better out of the sand or whatever. And so I
Yeah.
kind of think about this like, you have to decide that you're going to sit down and play the PPC game. And the
Yep.
fun part is when your short game is really good and you're able to book those calls and do it. But you got to get out there and swing and swing and swing and swing and swing until eventually you are getting to the green and you can put it in. And so
Yep.
it is always to me a game of I'm entering into something volatile and fluid. And so if you're
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm going to put a check right here. I did it. I'm doing PPC. You said $3,000. I'm giving you $3,000. Why is it not working? You have to know that it's a game of cat and mouse and push and pull. You just have to know it. And so I'm
Yeah.
trying to help contractors prepare themselves mentally for what a full marketing strategy looks like. And it is
Mhm.
not promises and nice, pretty bows. It is
Yeah.
messy and it is wild. And we are pivoting left and right and we're enjoying it. We have to enjoy it. And if that is not your style, I would definitely recommend not jumping on the marketing bandwagon. Don't become a
Yeah.
marketer if you're scared of change, because
Yeah.
the only thing consistent is change. So
Yeah.
the difference between a lead and a book job is a lead made the phone ring, but a book job gave you opportunity, right?
100%.
And there is still opportunity. Every time that phone rings, your CSR has an opportunity. So you need to be monitoring as a contractor how well your CSRs are dealing with that. And call
Yeah.
handling matters.
Exactly. So call handling matters. Your CSRs need to be trained on like, hey, if these leads are coming in from like any of the Google campaigns, we've got to be on top of those, especially for the lead to speed and like how Google is rewarding contractors. If you want your LSAs to rank, but it takes you over 5 minutes to be able to respond to somebody, you're gonna fast track lose your ranking in like LSAs. Same with like PPC. So they're tracking like all of that. So when you start the campaigns, you really got to be committed to one setting them up foundationally correct, and
Yep.
then have the commitment to follow through with training from top to the bottom. One thing that I actually heard, I think it was Bill Russell from
Oh,
search
Bill.
engine.
Okay. Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
I think
Maybe you
so.
can.
Yeah.
Geez, I wish he used to work with anyways, but he was talking about how one thing that I would suggest, and I'd actually tell my contractors to do this too, is one, get your cost per lead and then put it right there by your CSRs, so they can see like, hey, every time I don't book a job, it costs my company $250 or whatever the current like cost per lead is, right? So there is an actionable number behind the leads that are coming in. So it just makes them feel a little bit more committed to getting that. The other piece that I wanted to just run through real quick is just a little bit of like the foundational pieces to make your PPC and your LSAs run really run a lot better. So I'm just going to talk about more or less like a couple of mistakes, if that's all right.
Yeah,
And
come
then,
on, let's do
so
it.
that gives us some really good foundation. One is sending traffic to your homepage. That's a huge problem that I see on and on. So a homeowner, for example, searches like water heater repair. They click on your ad, basically the ad lands on a page talking about like company history. Or let's say that, they click on a plumbing ad, but you also do HVAC and electrical. They go to your homepage and they see like Tom's Heating and Air. They're going to be confused. They're going to be like, why did I click on
Well,
a
because
plumbing
there's no
service?
we're not following their intent.
Right, exactly. So we're not following the intent. So the landing page always has to match the service that you're basically running those ads for. The second thing is, and I get this, and I don't probably get some backlash here, but that's okay.
It's fine.
But I'm going to be controversial for a second. So I get the idea of like, hey, we want to work with, contractors. They make their money off of working with people there in their local market. So a lot of times contractors will be like, hey, there's a local guy that does our paid ads. And I'm not saying that they don't do a good job. They probably do. But what you really want to look at to get the most out of your paid out of your PPC budget is a company that can integrate into your CRM, because they can get the data that they need on attribution from those leads of exactly what campaign they came through, what that behavior looks like, and it gets rid of the false positives. And kind of what I mean by false positives, that's hard to track if you're not in the CRM and understanding that, like Service Titan or House Call Pro, is, for example, you might have a campaign that brings in a lot of leads. So your marketing company is like, hey, look at all the leads that came in through this campaign. Well, that might be a false positive. Maybe those leads actually aren't converting and you have a lower revenue for that, but your lead count is super high. So you imagine putting more money into that bucket where there is another campaign that maybe has less leads, but the conversion rates are twice as much, right? So if you're going by impressions and you're not really understanding the lead and like where it goes through all the way, you're kind of like flying blind. So one thing I always recommend is, if you want more out of that, work with a marketing firm that can actually get the data out of your CRM.
Okay, so CRM attribution, I will say, used to, I'm like, so I will say to a contractor, so you are just running this campaign with no true visibility of performance.
100%.
It is 1000%. Well, I spent all my money and I can't say it got me anything. Transparency into lead attribution. So let me break that down. Knowing where the lead came from. Okay, is what we're calling attribution. We need to know not only what callers, what customers came from what leads, but then what revenue did that particular job. So let's say you're doing this on a $49 tune-up. If you look up and you got 10 leads from this and you went out there and each lead was $300, there's a problem, a conversion problem on it. Data is so rich in answers. And
Yeah.
it goes deeper. It goes much deeper than marketing, and it goes further into operational issues. And there's no reason to be afraid of that stuff. Like, wouldn't you love to know when you could really look at things that objectively and say, okay, these 10 people called, these 20 people called, we got 10 of them to book. We went out there and we did the maintenance tune up or whatever. We were sucking it up at flipping that over. They didn't join our membership club. They didn't have a high ticket repair. They weren't eligible for and then we didn't even sell them anything else on another service like this. So again, contractors, we want to blame the marketing tactic. Marketing gets all the blame and none of the credit, right? So we get this was a terrible, these PPC leads are not working for me. Well, they're not, because you aren't delivering on the inside. Now, there is a legitimate concern when you get on here and see where the pay-per-click is not driving anything at all, not even any opportunities to book, no lead, no book jobs, and then certainly no revenue. But you've got to be able to have an educated conversation around that attribution. And so the CRM side of that is so vital. I run, or I have a part, I do not run, I have a part of 3 service companies alongside Lemon Seed that I look at every single day. And I would die. And I did relatively die for like several months with the pest control company, because we were struggling to find a CRM that would allow us to integrate to this. And I was literally telling my sister, she runs the pest control company, and I would say, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm blind. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm literally blind. Like I'm making decisions based off of my gut, which I mean, I'm not afraid of that, but I sure would love some data." And so then we started integrating with CallRail. And now we're doing all of these things to get us there, but it is definitely not fun. Um,
Yeah.
so what metrics, Brett, do you recommend that people make a part of their measurement of PPC?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that they need to track is your click to booking rate. So you just want to make sure that your booking rate is good, and just like how much money is it costing out of your marketing budget to get there. And then the overall telling of how a campaign is running, or how your campaigns are running, and is actually going to give you the insightful actions that you need to do on whether you want to scale or not, is simply your ROAS. So at the end of the month, you look at what your return on ad spend is. And if you're most companies, I would say you should be looking between, like, on PPC, a 3x to a 5x return on PPC. LSAs, Google LSAs, are a little bit higher just because of the guarantee that you get out of those. But PPC, you should be around a 3x to a 5x in your ROAS, right? And then you want to
So
take your, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. So return on ad spend. So I give you $5,000 for PPC.
Yeah,
Let's say I get a 5-time return. We're talking about in revenue generated. So this is what
right.
some people like to be like, well, my margins. No, that's on your P&L. We're talking
Yeah,
about I spent five, I made 5 times 5, which is $25,000. So
yeah,
I spent 5,000 to make 25,000 is
yeah.
a reasonable expectation of performance on PPC. And then Brett, you just said that it's even higher on LSA. And so you could even say, hey, I'm paying $100 a lead right now, and I got 5, 6, 7 times that.
Mhm.
That's where those are some good return on ad spend numbers.
Yeah, and I always tell people to layer the LSAs and the PPC, right? So if you have like a really minimal budget, I would definitely say like LSA is the place to start, just because you do get the guaranteed, you do get the guaranteed leads, and you do get a refund if it's not really, your client that they pick on, like if they come in and it's a service that you actually don't provide, you'll get a little bit of that. I mean, that's the closest you can get to like a guaranteed lead in the market. If there was like somebody that was doing guaranteed leads all the time, I mean, that marketing agency would be, billionaires by now. But that's
Listen,
the closest you can get. But the thing with LSAs is they're extremely limited on what you can actually, do ads for. And that's why you need to layer as you start growing. You need to layer into PPC to get a bigger piece of the market. So,
yeah, it's part
um,
of natural progression with
mhm,
the complexity of your marketing strategy. Natural progression would be LSA to PPC for sure.
100%. Mhm,
So, okay, so if I'm a contractor and I'm like, okay, all right, Brett, I am spending, X amount of dollars with my PPC vendor right now. I can see it in my Service Titan, and I'm gonna go look at rate from booking to from lead to booking, and I'm gonna go look to see if I'm somewhere between a 3 to 5 times return on ad spend. Then let's say that those are underperforming.
mhm.
So, what are some of the things that could be happening that I might could pivot with that? So, okay, my ROAS is not very high.
Mhm.
And I think my team is doing a good job in the house. I just think the leads are underqualified. So, like, I'm getting called to a lot of, let's say, like smaller homes or people with lower income. Where should a contractor's head go when that's there?
Yeah, so a couple things is, one is like, how big of a service area are you hitting? Like, you brought up a really good example earlier of the $49 tune-up, right?
Mhm.
Are you running a $49 tune-up 15 miles outside of your service area, or 15 miles like outside of where the office is? I mean, before your tech even gets in the truck, you've already lost money
Yeah,
before
yeah,
he even starts the truck up, right? So you want to run PPC ads on the one on the services that are going to be worthwhile for somebody to get in a truck and go out and do that service, right? The other thing that we talked about is zero tracking, not tracking their leads and like where they're coming from. So you got to make sure that you're tracking the attribution. Use a company like CallRail or one of those so you can understand the UTMs that are coming in. Listen to your recordings. I would say, especially that, listen to the phone calls for your CSRs. Always stop and what you can control first. Control your controllables, as they say. So look inward first, start looking at, do I need sales training? Are we not responding to these fast enough? Look at those pieces. And usually, a lot of times, the other thing that I see is when basically, how am I trying to put this? So I guess this might be a cut and edit part right here.
Oh, you're fine. 25.
When we're building out like a keyword list, I can guarantee you that if you go into like your keyword, your key phrases and your key words, that there's going to be things in there that you really don't want to be spending money on. So look through all those terms and make sure that like, hey, all the search terms and all those things are actually jobs that I want to get. I guarantee you there's probably 10 to 20 terms in there that if you knew you're running bids on, you'd be like, what is this even about? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, like, make sure you do it. So, we had this contractor get so mad at us one day because we were running some unique, like, Facebook stuff with this, and they were like, "We don't even do water heaters." And I'm like, "Ma'am, it's right here on your website. We
Right.
got it from your own website." So I love what you're saying there, but you said something that stuck with my head. So, I mentioned a $49, tune-up ad. What types of ad copy,
Mhm.
campaigns-ish, run best on PPC? Is it replacement? Is it service? What do you see?
Um, but it's really like interesting that you bring that up. So one would be like I would say you run, and this is actually something that we've learned from being able to pull that first party data. And that is if you're running, for example, we'll break a myth right now. Should we stop running ads during the shoulder season? Absolutely not. If
Yeah.
anything, you just want to lower that budget by 30 to 50%. But you never want to completely pause a budget because now you have to go through that loss again, right? The learning optimization and the sweet spot. You have to go through all that learning again if you pause those, but keep them at a low. But one thing we've learned is that actually what happens is those people that reach out to you for service and repairs during the off season have a higher rate of return during the busy season for installs and replacements. So you want to keep the ads going, for those repairs all the way through all your seasons, because you're going to get a really good return like during the summer for when they actually need an install or a replacement on their system or on their water heater, whatever it might be. And what was the other part of the question? I apologize.
No, I think that was it. Just what are the
Okay.
best types of ads to run?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I think that gives good feedback because the other thing I'm going to ask, so we get our ad copy right. And I love what you said
Mhm.
about dropping 30 to 50% instead of stopping altogether. But now, so when we should push our PPC to a landing page that
Mhm.
is designed to convert quickly,
Um,
right?
Yep.
And with strong calls to action. And so odds are if you have a PPC problem, there is a combination of things going on. Like you said, it could be too broad of an area. It could be the wrong ad itself. It could be underfunding. There needs to
Mhm.
be some true investigation other than just assuming that it's an agency problem. I agree with that. So
Yeah.
okay, I know one thing that you have mentioned about this is realistically investing. So you mentioned earlier maybe starting with LSA before you go over to PPC, and I know
Mhm.
this is very different across the country. So we're just talking, ranges here. What do you think you probably need to start with PPC? Just the average contractor, how much money investing a month to have a
Mhm.
decent run at it?
Well, I mean, the bare minimum to get like any type of meaningful data that's going to mean anything to your marketing company to help you like grow is, or even for your own, if you're doing it on your own, it's probably going to be between $1,500 to $2,000 a month for most markets. Competitive metros for like HVAC and plumbing, you're going to have to start at around $3,000 to $5,000, and that's even in the learning phase too, right? So you're going
Yeah,
to
so
have
like
to, yeah,
Dallas, Texas is you gotta pony up because it's a competitive market.
yeah,
Phoenix, all of those, Atlanta, San
yeah,
Antonio, you're hot and heavy, baby. You gotta
yeah,
come to the table. So you can
yeah.
throw $1,500 at it. It's just not gonna get you very far.
It's not going to get you very far. And with the way that Google works is they need to be able to see how many leads you got to be able to learn. So you've got to put enough budget in to at least get 50 leads a month, for them to be able to really understand the algorithm and the leads that that your company is looking for and that's working for you. So if you're looking at a budget, small areas 15 to 2,000, competitive markets 3 to 5,000, and then be committed that you're probably going to lose money the first month. You're probably going to break even the second month, and then that third and fourth month is where you're going to start seeing some good return. But just understand that it's even with all the great technology and AI and all these things that we're all working on and doing and implementing in our marketing agencies to help our clients learn, there isn't much we can do to speed up that process for Google's algorithms. That's something that they own, and that's something that they purposely put there, to make sure that you are committed, because they don't want companies just coming in, dropping $10,000, getting a ton of leads, and then leaving. They want everybody to be a little committed, but they also, at the same time, they get a lot of bad rap, but they are committed to you to give you good leads. You just got to learn how to talk to them, and a lot of companies don't talk to them the way that they need to be talked to
Yeah.
understand, so they know what leads to send over your way.
Okay. That's wonderful. Communication is so important. Okay, so rapid fire. I'm gonna ask you
Mhm.
2 quick questions, and then we're gonna wrap
Yeah,
this up. So
yeah, sounds good.
you already answered this one. You tricked me. You did already answer the slow one. So, does more budget always mean better results? So, if I'm getting good results and I add more budget, does that always mean I can be successful?
No, I think like what happens with that is it really just amplifies like what's already there. So if things are going good, I mean, it's just going to amplify things that are going good. But if you haven't gone through and checked like really the foundations of your campaigns and your strategy, then things are just going to get worse and you're going to lose more money.
So, no. Okay. And then are Google GLSA ads better than PPC?
Mm. Yeah, I would say I don't know if they're like any better, but they're just different. I mean, with LSAs and basically you charge per call and like not per click, which is really like contractor friendly. But if you have like control over your budget, visibility, and keywords, standard Google ads can like give you more targeting power and create it like more targeting power and like more creative flexibility. But the real answer is if you can do both, to do both. But I would say if you're a smaller contractor, like starting out, then definitely start with like your LSAs. Focus on your speed to lead. Focus on getting reviews. Focus on optimizing your Google My Business page, and then those LSAs will provide you enough revenue to start investing more into SEO and to PPC and start layering your marketing from there.
I love it. I love it, and I agree. I think it's such a step up process. So, I love that. I know that you are offering a free SEO audit to our listeners today. What does that look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, so we can do a free PPC or an SEO audit. Basically, what we'll do is we'll dive into your SEO performance, your PPC performance. If you feel like it's not quite up to snuff, or that you're not to snuff, but if it's not really operating or giving you the revenue return that you were hoping it would, we'll definitely do a deep dive on that and like give you like honest feedback. We have done some PPC audits where it's like, hey, things are set up really good, maybe it's time to look at maybe your conversion within the office. But there have definitely been a few audits that have opened my eyes to what's actually going on out there in the market, and there's some definite one knowledge that we'd like to get back into the contractors so they can take more of that knowledge into their own hands
Yep.
and be able to know what they're looking at when they get into their Google Ads accounts.
I love it. And I would take you I think anyone should take you up. I know you guys have a soft approach to like y'all just want to help.
Mhm.
And so I really appreciate that. Well, listen, Brett, thank you so much for joining and talking about PPC. And guys,
Yep.
if you are looking for a full service digital agency, WebFX is a great partner with Lemon Seed. We have great success stories. I'd love to hand you off to Brett. So either reach out to them directly or reach out to us, and we're happy to connect. But thank you for listening to another episode in our Alphabet Soup series. If you loved what you heard, share this with someone that you think could benefit from hearing this story about PPC. And don't forget to keep sipping lemonade. We'll see you next time.